Alright, let's talk about the file menu. The first item is new. This is where you would create your new canvas. You make all your decisions and you press OK and you have a new canvas. Next up is create new from clipboard. Now this would be in case you wanted to create a new canvas based on information from the clipboard. Let's say, for example, I use my Windows snipping tool to create an image, copy it to the clipboard. No, I don't want to save it. It's on the clipboard. I use the file menu, create new from clipboard, and now it's created a new canvas based on what was on my clipboard. So that's a handy feature. The next item is open. That's pretty self-explanatory, and Ctudio will open several different formats. Next on the list is recent. Self-explanatory, that just gives you a list of projects you've recently been working on. Last file I was working on is this. Next on the list is close. That'll close the program. Now I want to discuss these three options: save, save as, and save duplicate. There are subtle differences between these three options. As a general rule, you should be using save as to save your work, because save as gives you the options to decide where to put it, what to name it, and what file format you want to save it as. And that way you never run into a situation where you overwrite your work. Because, so let me demonstrate here. If I have this canvas and I draw a masterpiece, this is not how I usually... Okay, I don't really like this guy, but I'm just experimenting with new techniques for building characters. But let's say I was really in love with this. Now, because I've never saved this file before, even if I use the save command, it's going to bring up the save as dialog box, meaning I got to decide where to put it, what to call it, and what file extension it needs to be. So, let's say I want to put this in my SG artwork folder, and I want to call it, let's see, this guy's name is Joe, and I want to keep it as a Ctudio format file. So I'm going to save it. Well, now that I've saved it, let's say I give this Joe guy some hair. Let's see, I'm terrible at hair. So now Joe has hair. So if I go to save, what's going to happen is it's just going to save it. So I saved it, so that's fine. You know, I've got his hair on this layer, and I've got his head on this layer, and I saved it, and everything's fine. So let's say I merge his hair with his head. This layer is serving no purpose, so we'll get rid of it. So now we have Joe with hair, and let's say I save, and so now I've just saved. Wait a minute, what if I have to give Joe a new hairstyle? Well, I don't have a layer of Joe with no hair. It's gone, and I saved this file. Obviously I could go in here and erase Joe's hair and start over, but the point is, wouldn't it have been easier if I could just delete or hide the hair layer and start with Joe's bald head? Well, I can't now because I used the save function and it just saved it. It didn't ask me any questions. I can't do anything because it's saved like this now. Let's start that whole project over again, or a different guy. Don't know what I'm doing here? Ugh. When I try to draw somewhat realistically, I just don't understand what this area looks like. I guess that's not bad. Eyebrows I'm terrible at. Okay, this is good enough for demonstration. So right away we're at a situation where I've completely changed this canvas. So the first thing I want to do is save this, but I don't want to save it as Joe, right? So I want to save this guy's name is Harry. So I'm going to use the save as function so that I can decide what to do with this, because I'm working in a file that I already called Joe. I need to save as, because if I just save, I'm going to ruin the Joe project. But this guy's name is Harry, and this is the Harry project. And I gotta remember that I'm working in the Joe project, but I don't want this to be the Joe project, so I must go to save as. Where do you want it? What do you want to call it? What format should it be? There's Joe. I want to call this guy Harry. Harry. I'm not gonna change. I could change it, but I'm not going to. I don't need to. I don't want to. Save. So now I have Harry. Okay, Harry. And you see this X here? That indicates no changes have been made to this since the last time I save it. As soon as I add a layer, we'll call this Larry's hair layer, it's now not an X anymore. It's now a circle. Also has this asterisk. That's just redundant information telling you that this is an unsaved file. So now I'm going to give Harry some hair. Again, not real savvy with hair. How would his hair look? So this would be like this. Something like that? Alright, his hair doesn't match his eyebrows, but we're not trying to win any awards here. The point is that now I want to stop working and save this. Well, I learned my lesson from last time. I'm not going to go directly to save. I'm going to go save as, so that I can call this, I can decide where to put it. I'm going to put it in the same folder, but I definitely don't want to overwrite Harry. I want to call this one Harry 2, or Harry, let's be very specific, Harry with hair. Now, let's say I want to give Harry a new hairstyle. Well, I don't have to fight with Harry because I have a bald Harry, because I saved this on purpose. Okay, so you get where I'm going with that? Now let's talk about save duplicate. What you've got to understand about what I just did was I saved the file. I am now working on the file I saved. Save duplicate will go one step further. First thing you do is decide what file extension you want to save as. And let's go with the Ctudio format. Now from here, we are in a version of save as, but this is save duplicate. So I can still decide, I still have all the same options I had with save as. I decide where to save it, what to call it, and what format. I can change my mind here, and I can call it, I can save it as a JPEG. I will save it as a JPEG. So I'm going to save it as Harry with hair, and it's going to be a JPEG. That means it's not going to overwrite the Ctudio format file, because it can't overwrite that, because I'm calling it, I'm going to save it as a different format. And it's going to ask me, you know, you realize that you're destroying your ability to edit this, right? Yes. Okay, well, what I've done was I've saved a duplicate of this file. This is still the Ctudio format file. And this actually gets kind of confusing because let's use save as and save this as a JPEG. And it's going to ask me, hey, you know, you already have this. Do you want to replace it? I'm going to say yes because I know what I'm doing. I am replacing it on purpose. Layer information. Yeah, I know. Watch this. You see? The save as command saves the file that you're actually working with. Now this is kind of complicated because this is not a JPEG. This has layers in it. But if I use the save as, oh man, this is so hard to explain, but okay, I know how to explain this. Let's very quickly give Harry a beard. Okay, so Harry's got a beard now. And that beard is on its own layer, and his hair's on its own layer, so I can make changes, right? So now I use save as, and I do Harry with hair and beard. And I want to make sure that I save it as a Ctudio Paint format, so I can edit it later. So when I make changes to this file, I'm making changes to the file I just saved. Now, that may seem obvious, but let me go further and explain the difference between save as and save duplicate. If I save duplicate and save this as Harry with hair and beard, now this already exists. Do I want to replace it? So I'm going to say no, because see, this idea, I'm going to make a duplicate now. Okay, actually, I didn't expect that to happen. But this demonstrates clearly what the difference is between save as and save duplicate. This is telling me, hey, what you're attempting to do when you save duplicate is save another version of of what you're working in, and this is telling me you already have a file like this. You can't have two called exactly the same thing. You can't have two versions of the same file. It just computers don't work that way. This has to have a different name or a different file extension or be saved to a different folder. And so this is now, so I would have to call it Harry with hair and beard 2, and I'm going to save it, and it just saved it. But notice that this did not change. See, I'm not working in Harry with hair and beard 2. I saved that as a duplicate. Again, let's go to save as. Make sure it's the same, and I'm going to call this, see, it's not 2. I'm not working in 2. But now I'm going to call it 2. It already, this is just a little helpful thing, but yeah, okay. I'm going to call it Harry and Beard 2. It's going to warn me you already have a document with this name and this file extension. I'm going to overwrite it. You want to do that? I'm going to say yes. Now watch. Boom. I am now working, because I used save as, this is the file I'm working in. I'm working in the file I just saved. Again, if I use duplicate, just to clarify, and I call this 3, save Harry with hair and beard 3, it's going to do it, but this is not going to change because I'm still working in Harry with hair and beard 2. I saved it. There is a file that exists called Harry with hair and beard 3, this one here, but that's not the one I have open. That's the duplicate of Harry with hair and beard 2. And that's the difference between save as and save duplicate. Save duplicate saves a new version that you aren't that you're just basically saying, okay, put this file somewhere for safekeeping. Meanwhile, I'll continue working in the file I was working in the first place. So I hope that makes sense to you, it makes sense to me. At first I didn't understand what the difference between save as and save duplicate was. And now revert is great. I just made all these scribbles and I don't want them, and I could use undo. I don't want to do all that. If I just say, oh, what did I do to this? I'll just revert. All unsaved changes will be lost. Do you want to proceed? Yes. Because the last time I saved this, I guess I saved this for the sake of demonstration, but at least I don't have all those other scribbles. So that's kind of self-explanatory. You understand. Basically, you're going to revert to the last time it was saved. So now it's grayed out because I haven't made any changes to it. It's the last time it was saved. The last thing I want to talk about right now in this video is export single layer. Export is also very much like save as or save duplicate, except that when you use export, you can't save it as a Ctudio format. You can't save it as an editable file. Export is specifically for crushing this down into one single layer. So if I choose JPEG, it's basically like a save as dialog box where I decide where to put it, what to call it, and what file extension to use. Again, the difference is because I'm in the export, I can't choose Ctudio format because this is the export box, and this assumes that I want to export it as a finished piece of work without any layer information. Here's the export options. You can just choose things like quality and stuff like that. So let's say I want to save this as a JPEG. Now let's look up here. Now see, it acts like duplicate in that it hasn't changed my file that I'm working in. I am working in the same file I left off with. Let me try to demonstrate one last thing so I can hopefully clarify this for you. Let's say I go save as, and I call this Z. Watch, you see, it's changed the file to Z. I didn't make a duplicate and I did not export it. I changed the file I'm actually working in by using save as. But what I have not done is overwrite this file here, Harry with Hair and Beard 2. So even though these two files, well, see, they don't look the same because I made changes to this one called Z. And if I didn't make this circle thing here, they would be identical because this save duplicate is a new feature in the latest version of Ctudio Paint, and I wasn't quite sure what it was good for, but now I do understand what it was, and I wanted to help you understand what it's good for. There's definitely a difference between save as, and save duplicate, as well as export.